Okay, Dad, go through the chisels and the tools that we use, because I'm going to use this for the notes. We used a 2-inch chisel, 1.5-inch chisel, 3/8 inch chisel, and a 1/4 inch chisel. Now, we were able to use these chisels. One of us worked on the bases while the other person worked on the desks and got a lot accomplished. Once we got the right plans, it was less than, I'd say, about 7 hours. We just ran into a bunch of snafus because we didn't have a good measurement on the pattern over here. So the pattern, having this angle over here and knowing how to cut it properly was what lended us to create the wrong pattern over here initially, because we didn't have a good measurement and we were short. So we accommodated. Fortunately, we're on the process of making one prototype just to make sure everything fit right before we wasted, you know, $125 worth of chloroplast. We made a bending brake. Let's talk about the bending brake over here, Dad. We used a level to help guide our cuts with the scroll saw, but our bending brake was basically made using some hinges here, as well as the we put this edge stuff here that normally goes on sheetrock to make the bends uniform. What's that stuff called, Dad?
It's just corner mold.
Corner mold.
It goes on sheetrock.
The key is to have what we didn't understand. The hinge has to open up. So when you lay it on the table, we use either a C-clamp or screwed it onto the table to stabilize it, so that we can bend it and not move, not have it move on us. Okay. Now I'm going to show some other plans for folks that want to use anything besides, not just the 24-inch plan, but I've got a stand here that's 32 inches and I got one that's 40 inches for other players. So
Corner bead.
It's called what, Dad?
Corner bead.
Galvanized corner bead. Can't really see it there on the focus, but yeah, okay. Now we did use this to cut this saw here, miter saw, to cut our harmonicas, the 1.5 inch by 6 inch. The drill was also very handy to drill guide holes in the bending brake, so we needed a drill for that. Also, the big thing initially when we were cutting was using the scroll saw, which it's over here, the scroll saw. So Stanley makes going back to the chisels, Stanley makes a tool set you can get with all the chisels in them. They're wood chisels. They're called wood chisel set, and this one had a case with it. We did use the 3/8 inch 5/5 millimeter of the this kind of plywood's real thin. It was about $11 at Lowe's for a pattern initially. You could make a bigger pattern if you wanted to for the 40-inch and the 32-inch, but we realized as long as we square the 24-inch pattern on top of whatever you're using here, it's going to be the same. So no problems there. Daddy, is there anything else you can think of? We got the duct tape, got the contact cement. We ended up on the contact cement basically making a little tiny line here, which you can barely see it, but it's in lead there, right about there. And that what that did for us was help us to line up those ends. That supports the stand as well as gives you a place for the light. Okay, I think we pretty much covered everything else. I've got some scrap pieces here in this bag, and I got my plans, and I got some duct tape, so I want to use the duct tape to trim it, make it look nicer later on. Contact cement was good. Just making good measurements, measuring twice and cutting once, standard rule. And if you have a scroll saw, making sure that you get a measurement from the center of the blade to the rail that scroll saw rides on, and you can use a level much like this one to guide your saw. You just have to count when you measure. For example, our saw was centered 1 5/16 inches from the center of the blade to the rail. So we basically, if we had to make a 24-inch cut, we would make a 25 5/16 mark on the chloroplast, and then line this level up with that mark, and then cut it accordingly, and it would cut out perfectly, and it was an accurate cut rather than cutting by hand. So that was a little improvised thing that Dad did, was really helpful. But anyways, just having the right tools, the time, and the help is huge. Oh yeah, C-clamps. We used about 2 or 3 of these to clamp things down. This one's a 3-inch. That worked just fine for us. It all depends on your sawhorse, your table, but keep that in mind. Tape measures vital. Also, if you have right angle thing. We use this quite often to just square up some stuff initially when we're cutting. It's called a what now? A framing square. There you go. That's the proper term. Chisels and hammers. Having 2 hammers, that was helpful. Paintbrushes, drill bits. When we initially cut our pattern out of the plywood, to get the scroll saw in there where we could cut, which by the way we were lining this up also with the level, we had to drill in here so we could stick the saw in there to get there and make a straight cut. Once we got it cut, it was a little round, so we went back with a file and filed it down, which you can do that in both there and there. I did use a chisel down here. Just be careful with the chisel. Make sure always the flat end goes against the good part that you want to keep. The flat end goes against the good part to keep. That was a good thing I learned from doing this project. Okay, that's a lot of words. Oh, the hole punching jig. I almost forgot about that. Yeah, where's our hole punching jig that we had made? Over here. Okay, now according to the website, you could do it with the hinges. What we found is that the hinges tend to, if they're not square, can tend to shift it and make your pattern off. And we felt it was more accurate to do this. So what we ended up doing was sticking the chloroplast in here on the top edge, squaring it off, basically upside down. And I wrote top on here so you could see top. And we squared on this side and then flip the chloroplast over and square it on the other side and draw a line through that hole, trace it through that hole so it'd be more accurate. So that definitely helped a lot. I hope for those of you that are making stands out there, this has been informative and helpful. We spent about a day and a half because we didn't have the right measurements in the plans and wasted part of our chloroplast, but we made up for it in the long run. Now, for my band, I've got a 10-piece band, so we're only making 7 stands because the rhythm section doesn't need the other 3 in the rhythm section don't need the other stands. But for those of you that are making the 24-inch for 15 or 17 pieces stands for your bands, definitely go with the plans that Henry's laid out. For those of you that want to have different sizes, I'm going to lay that out in another format so you can do that as well. Hopefully this has been helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me via the information on my page.